Stack! Stack! You need to stack! Chargers, stack!
Greetings everyone, and welcome to the 10 things I learned after 10 Karazhan runs. Number 10. As you saw in the intro, everyone needs to stack on this trash. The spectral chargers will charge the furthest person that's more than 10 yards away from him, and every single Karazhan raid you join, whether it's your guilds or a pug, inevitably someone's going to point out that ranged DPS and healers need to stack. So save yourself the trouble, maybe look like you know what you're doing, and try to stack. They also have a fear ability that's cast after a successful charge, but I'll go over each mob's abilities in detail on my How to Tank Karazhan trash that you can find in the video description below. Additionally, once you get to Adamant, it's useful to know that he has two phases, and in phase 1, there's two separate targets. So if you're a DPS in the group, you can monitor your threat meter, and if it's looking like you're going to pull threat on the main target to begin with, you can tab target and DPS Adamant himself. Typically, I don't think this is the correct strategy, and swapping to the humanoid during phase 1 might cause further threat issues because the main tank isn't focusing his threat on it, but this strategy is nice to have in your back pocket. Number 9. After tanking a few Karazhan runs on the beta, I noticed that the DPS kept pulling trash off me in the ballroom and the ghosts whenever I would line of sight the mobs, and it was brought to my attention how the threat table actually works. So typically the tank will have initial threat on the mob, and DPS or healers won't aggro the mob if they stay under 130% on the threat meter. So you can surpass the tank by 29% and still not pull aggro. That is, if you're more than 10 yards away from said mob. If your melee DPS, or warlocks in this instance, are fighting within 10 yards of the mob, it only takes 110% to pull aggro off the tank. So even if warlock's seating from 20 yards away, and you're at 115% threat, and then you move within 10 yards of the mob will instantly swap aggro to the warlock. This is useful for both DPS and tanks to understand, just so that DPS you can be mindful of where you're standing, and tanks consequently should try to avoid tanking the mobs at choke points, where your healers and DPS might be cornered. Number 8. Look out for pets. The trash in this room between Moros and Maiden can be painful, and I would imagine most groups will likely skip the 4 elites, accompanied with a retainer who mind controls someone in the group, and the skip is going to look something like this, and as a paladin tank, you'll want to pull these normal mobs back to a safe position. I like to dead zone the casters in the group and then get them to move with me, but be mindful, if you leave them some of the casters where they stand, a warlock or hunter pet is inevitably going to run in, target them, and unintentionally pull an additional elite pack, which will probably lead to a wipe. So hunters and warlocks, look out for your pets. Number 7. This might be one of the most useful tips I've heard, and I don't see many other groups using this strategy on Maiden. Groups wipe on this boss for 3 reasons. Too many people are stacked and get one shot by chain lightning, paladins or priests don't decurse, or the entire raid is stunned by repentance for 8 seconds and the tank doesn't drag Maiden to the healers to break them out of their stun. Most groups wipe on this for the 3rd reason, but this can easily be countered if everyone in your group has one simple item: their PvP trinket. And believe it or not, the trinket actually breaks you out of Maiden stun. Maiden dies so quickly that you only have one repentance phase, and with a PvP trinket, it makes this boss a breeze. So get in those BGs and purchase your trinket.
Pro tip: skip this trash mob every single run and get to the top of the leaderboards on DungeonCleave.com.
Yo, he just he just did that jump one shot. Someone's been practicing that jump. Speed running strats, man. Speed running strats. Gaming, dude.
Number 5. The Curator. Don't pass this part of the carpet. Curator has an unbelievably long aggro range and will pull anything past this carpet. A good rule of thumb is to stay behind the halfway mark of this carpet to ensure you don't wipe your raid. I've seen both totems and hunter or warlock pets pull the boss by being past this part of the carpet as well. So, shamans, be mindful of your totems.
Don't die next time, thank you.
Tommy, heal me, dude.
There's a guy
Bro, I
following
legit.
me.
Attack
Oh,
assist
Lucas,
trolling.
you're trolling. You're trolling.
Man, these EU gamers, man.
Grace, how hot are our hands right now, bro?
The hands?
Oh, you changed your name?
The hands are on fire. You should put the house on it. Everybody move up. Yeah, you should put the house on it. Like I'm talking rolling 98s. Put it all on black.
Yeah, even further back on the carpet.
Okay, you can't lose.
Oh, yep.
Uh-oh.
Okay, we lost.
Oh,
No.
We actually lost. We actually lost.
Tommy, quickly, use your superpower. Where's the evade spot?
Probably be up up
Tommy,
here.
quick! Tommy!
Number 4. Whatever you do, don't skip this trash. I've ran 15 Karazhans in the beta, and 14 of those 15 runs we wiped multiple times on this trash, trying to skip it and save a few minutes. The one run that we didn't wipe, we cleared 90% of it. And don't get me wrong, a coordinated group on the same page can skip this trash if you're all in comms. Luckily, you only have 10 people who need to complete the task instead of 40, but it never fails, someone always pulls. Number 3. Shade of Iran. Shiza. Dude, I hate this boss. The only thing you can control here is your attitude. Go to your happy place. This might be the most tilting boss in the dungeon. Shade of Iran. He can be a complex boss. He doesn't need to be, but your shamans, your rogues on kick assignments might make him more difficult than he needs to be. We found out that locking him out of all 3 of his schools of magic, Arcane, Frost, and Fire, made him melee the highest person on threat, which was typically a warlock or a mage. And contrary to popular belief, Shade of Iran does have a threat table, and when you have a Clothy getting prio on heals over the multiple hunters standing in Shade's Blizzard and wiping, you may have to endure the longest run back into the instance over and over and over again. If your top DPS doesn't get nuked by his 12,000 Flame Breath, someone always moves on Flame Breathe, tilting you until your next raid lockout. Buckle in, get to your happy place. Shade of Iran will disband many pugs in TBC's lifetime. Number 2. Let's talk a little chess. Only losers wipe on the chessboard, right? Don't tell me we
Healing
wipe
now,
on this. There's
healed,
no way,
okay.
there's no way, there's no way, there's no way.
That's how you do it, boys. Just to clarify, you should never wipe on chest. It's like the easiest thing in the whole world.
Now, without going into detail on Warcraft logs and trying to figure out how Johnny got a 99 parse on chess event last week, typically what you want to do is rush the opposing king with everything you've got. I'm not sure if this is working as intended, but for pieces like the king, you can jump over pieces directly in front of you if the next space is open. This allows you to get your highest DPS to the king quicker, and in the chess event even faster. So, also, if your group's trolling and you make it to the phase where Medivh cheats and puts fire on the board, be aware that pieces take damage from one space away from the fire, as well as on top of its visual effect. Number 1. Evade spots. Now, for the final boss in Karazhan, we've got the Prince. Early on in TBC, before healers have better gear and DPS are able to get Prince Malchezaar out of Phase 2 quicker to help the tank survive, you may wipe a few times in Phase 2. And even after the raids on farm, a few unlucky Infernals will wipe even the most experienced raiders and lead to a painful death run. Unless you're an evade spot, God Gamer Andy, like Tommy Salami.
10 seconds and we don't attack
Oh,
at all.
is this
the
an
first
evade
10
spot?
seconds.
Yeah, tell me we're in an evade spot.
Tommy finds an evade spot
Oh
within
my
seconds.
god.
Nah, Winky found this.
Yo,
Winky
it's
found
working.
this.
It's working, Tommy. It's
Yo,
working.
it's like,
Oh
bro,
my
it's like the
God.
McFadden one.
Dude.
Yo, he knocked me back onto this thing. No.
Oh,
No way.
Oh.
Oh,
Nice.
That's right, you can reset Prince by standing on the structure near the door and evading him. More terrain abuse. If it's not mages breaking the meta in instance content, raid groups will be able to cheese accidental butt pulls or unlucky boss mechanics to save a few minutes in the overall morale of the group. Hopefully we see Blizzard break or fix all the evade spots and pathing abuse in the game to create a more real experience, but until that day, have fun springing on top of bookcases, scaling those walls, or jumping on top of ledges. You just might be the hero in your raid that week. Thank you all for watching my 10 things I learned in Karazhan after 10 runs. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. And if you'd like to follow along my TBC journey, you can do so at twitch.tv/gracefordays. If you're interested in prop paladin content, I recommend you check out the Pally Bible series, as well for gold farming videos and tanking advice. Cheers.